There we go. So just a quick roll call, and I want to introduce Megan to everyone. Ben is here. Belle, Ben, Belle, Adriana, Bree will not be here. Megan, Dan Dixon. And would you like an introduction to everyone as they come in so you know who they are? Sure. Okay, so we can do that. Can you take our thing off there?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Belle. So we have a new position. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but we can introduce ourselves too. It's Megan Hess, and she is our environmental specialist.
Services coordinator.
Environmental services coordinator, the ESC that Orono has hired, and the town of Orono has hired, and she is going to be part of our committee. Yes.
I believe so.
Okay.
Staff to the committee like I am.
She will be staff to the committee. So I don't know if you'll be in all our meetings. We're working it out. She can be, but she also has more she can do as she wants. How does that sound? So this is our committee. You know me, Cheryl Robertson. I'm counsel, you know, Belle. And maybe Ben, you could start.
Sure. I'm Ben Hale. I am involved with the Orono Land Trust. I'm the vice president of the Orono Land Trust board, and that is how I originally got involved with this committee. Resident of Orono with 2 kids in school.
Yeah. Who else? Adriana?
Should I go first? Yeah. So I'm an environmental artist, but I have background in biology, and I used to work here in Brazil for conservation biology and botany mostly. And I am part of this community because it's my interest. I live in Orono and I have my kid in Orono. So I'm in Brazil, but my hometown is in Orono.
Thank you, Adriana. And Adriana is the crafter. She's the one who brought us the plastic machine that we have to talk about. Dan?
Hi, my name's Dan Dixon. I'm the Director of Sustainability at UMaine, also a research assistant professor at the Climate Change Institute, and I live in Orono.
And Dan, we have a student who's interested in doing an electric vehicle project. So I have given Megan your name and said that you are the one to talk to because you're the one who got them on campus, right?
Yeah, I'm just in the process of firing up 4 new ones, and I've driven electric vehicles for about 7 years, so I've got a little bit.
That's great. I think you were on the Zoom when we gave the talk for UMaine. So that's the project that the student was involved in. So I was hoping that maybe we could meet with you and just go over kind of your thought process for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And before you guys get started on that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I didn't mean to hijack her. I just wanted to make sure he knew that we
Megan, can you just kind of tell us, introduce yourself, your background, all the fun stuff about you?
I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I moved to Maine 4 years ago for my master's at the University of Maine. I was in ecology and environmental sciences under Sarah Nelson, who is not there anymore, but that's who my advisor was. And so I studied ecotoxicology and the effects of heavy metals on water bodies in the national parks and how that translates up to food webs and into fish and into humans and all of that stuff. So my background really is heavy metals and toxicology with an environmental degree. So thanks for having me and let me join you guys.
Good. So we've got a couple things on the agenda, and Megan's going to present the community resilience grant that she's working on. And I sent out the self-assessment to you all, but it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But we can go over that. She can go over that and see what she's got done. And she's just really just looking for input, but I'll let her present that. I want to talk about Weatherize Orono, the waste diversion grant, get some updates, public comment, and that will be our agenda for tonight. So I'm going to let Megan take it and talk about the community resilience grant and what she's done and where we need to go and what she needs from us.
Yeah. So this community resilience self-evaluation is, we needed to do it to be eligible for the grants that the state of Maine is putting on, or so that's the climate action grants. So we went through, a few of us in a few different departments went through and filled this out. I'm mostly just looking for if there's any additional feedback that you guys would like to add to it. I don't know what else, Bella, you think? I mean, that's kind of, it's pretty much done, but if there's anything else that you guys feel we should add, by all means, and we're just gonna try to wrap up this document so that we have it completed for that grant process.
Do you guys, did you have a chance to review it when we first sent it out, or do you want us to briefly go through it?
I think you should go through it briefly, like just go through it, like just kind of page by page, and also the objective, the goals. What is the self-assessment leading up to, right? Or for.
I appreciate going through it.
Can you say that again, Ben?
Oh, I was just saying I would appreciate also going through it, at least some of the highlights.
Sure. So it's a self-evaluation that it was basically just trying to find holes in what are we already doing and what are we not so much doing, or what is something that we could do for the grant application. So a lot of it had to do with kind of the first part was exposure to hazards and minimizing risks. So that's the green section. That's the gray section is just an overview. So if we want to, however you want to do this, Bella.
No, you're doing fine.
Okay. So a lot of the minimizing risk has to do with the hazard mitigation plan. And that's just a countywide Penobscot county plan that says what our major hazards are, which would be floods because we're surrounded by the river. And also severe winter storms, severe summer storms, wind storms, and wildfires.
So those are the ones that staff identified and what was identified within the Penobscot County plan. Is there something that we have missed that somebody wants to bring up? If not, we can keep.
I think what we need, okay, let's back up just a little bit, all right? Because this is a while ago that we sent this.
Yeah.
This has to do with the climate action plan, right? That the state is offering. I think, Dan, you sent out a link or something today. And this grant is one of the grants that Megan is working on for Orono, not for the bigger climate action regional plan, but for Orono. The precursor to this grant is that the town of Orono needs to fill out a survey of what it is exactly that Orono, help me out here. It's a survey for what Orono is doing already, or is looking at, or is assessing risk, whatever the municipality is looking at as far as climate action and climate crisis and climate emergencies. And so it's a self-assessment of the town's ability to mitigate and or help.
Well, I mean,
it's a town assessment, but it is a precursor to getting this, to applying for the grant. And we haven't really explained what the grant is.
So the grant is
there we go.
Based based essentially on the Maine won't wait plan, which we've walked through as a group already.
Right.
So what we need to do with this self-assessment is this is a statement of where we currently are and what we currently do.
Right.
As our understanding is from the webinars that Megan attended, is that you don't gain or lose points based on what you've done or haven't done. But in order to move forward with the grant process, you have to have a self-assessment that you've actually, I would think, thought about.
Yep, that's correct.
Not
So,
just a yes, no, move on.
There we go.
Kind of thing. So what staff did, we went through with WPCF, so the water treatment facility, public works, public safety, and Megan and I were also there to review, like, what are we already doing? Here's what we think our hazards are. Here's what we think that we're currently doing. And here's what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. So when we say that we think the floods, the winter storms, the summer storms, and wildfires are the 4 most prevalent hazards, a lot of that is, there's a Penobscot County hazard mitigation plan that Megan reviewed when she went through this, but also that comes from our experience responding to events here at the town of Orono. If there's something that is not captured by this that you feel is a hazard that we should be considering, we would want to put it in. But it's not, if we miss something, it doesn't mean that we couldn't apply for the grant if that's something
Right.
later on.
Right.
The one thing I should mention with the Community Resilience Grant, there's a round in March, $50,000 for community projects, and then another round in September. Our expectation is that as we are working with the Regional Climate Action Plan, that we would be applying as a group for the September funds. So March is our opportunity. So to do Orono specific plans. So we were just going to go through this self-assessment pretty quickly and then talk about the different types of projects that the grant says that they will fund, and what do we think are the top priorities that we should forward to council to consider applying for this grant.
Can you make that bigger?
Yes.
So are you aiming to get this, I think, isn't the first deadline February 15th or something? Was I imagining that?
For different, I think it's in March, Dan, for this. There's a lot of different deadlines for this particular program because there's 4 different types of grants.
So the idea is to apply for some Orono specific grants to get some stuff done before we get really launched on this regional planning initiative.
Right. Yes.
Sounds good to me.
Right. So I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at this. And like I said, this was a few weeks ago that I sent this in. Council has looked at it. We've looked at it as a council already. And Megan did a really nice presentation about climate action and all that stuff. That the stuff that she presented to council, we have seen already. What we haven't seen is the assessment. What we haven't talked about is the assessment. So the town assessment. And so part of the plan, part of the assessment is to run it past this particular committee, to run it past the environment committee, so that we can just kind of weigh in, or if there's a suggestion, or if there is a comment, concern, anything that you see, and especially that applies to us as a community, and from the perspective of community members and community members with a vested interest in climate action and climate change and mitigation and all of the things that you know that are part and parcel of this of this grant and of this action, this community resilience grant and this action that we're doing. So this is just the precursor that every town has to fill out.
Yep,
an assessment.
that's right. So this self-evaluation is kind of like our ticket to be able to apply for the grants. So in here, this might tell us what we could do better or what we're already doing. However, I know that you guys have ideas for grant opportunities as well. So I really think that the self-assessment we should take almost with a grain of salt, unless there's something that there sticks out to you that, oh yeah, we could work on that and that would be an easy grant opportunity. Does that make sense?
Something we can
Because we have the 2 documents that we have to go over that are necessary to even apply for the grant. So this is just one.
So how would you like to move forward on this?
Actually, I think just this first summary part would be a good overview of what we figured out in the document. We can just go through it that way.
Okay.
So what are 2 things Orono is doing well? Our planning process shows that the town's dedication to making improvements to resources required for climate change resilience. Let's see.
Community support is good.
Yep.
So we have community support. We also have staff working together.
Yep. And then the 2 areas that we could improve on short term. So maybe this would be more simpler projects. We found out that more staff training. So whether this be with the fire department and hazard mitigation plans, if something major does happen, we could do some staff training to be ready for anything like that. And then just be more aware during the planning processes. So with any housing developments and things like that, how can we make our buildings as strong as they can be if a hazard does happen? Those were the—
Can I raise a question?
Yep.
Are we talking, so we're talking hazards, are we including things like environmental mitigation, or is mostly in a hazard scenario of like emergencies? Because I'm thinking, I don't see anything in here about like extinctions and things that, you know, are social impact on like diversity and things that are not here. Is that just a secondary factor from these things, or?
Well,
you know what I mean?
What's interesting is that because we kind of walk through this as staff, and this self-assessment for the community kind of walks you through hazards and vulnerabilities. So, you know, is your infrastructure or housing stock prepared for 100-year floods or 100-year windstorms or whatever? But the grant opportunities are based solely on, or not solely, the grant opportunities are based on the main mold weight plan.
Primarily,
so,
right?
There are a lot of project suggestions that talk about, you know, public education and outreach.
Reducing greenhouse gases.
Right, reducing greenhouse gases, all sorts of things that kind of aren't even mentioned in the
Yeah.
self-assessment. So
Yeah.
that's why this looks very much like, this is what staff thinks about when it comes to town infrastructure and can we survive the next windstorm, flood, major fire, bridge collapse, etc. Versus is our housing stock energy efficient? But
that will come into.
But that comes into that main weight. So
right.
in the next document, we'll see more of that.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Does that help, Adriana? It's really
Yeah,
more
it
of the
does.
main won't wait.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Climate
Okay.
action.
So this is,
Mhm.
I think that we should move on from this.
Yeah.
Because this is a, if you guys read it and you look at it and you say, I think that the way that the staff has answered these questions, they've really missed an opportunity to identify something that would put us into a good position for a grant. Email us and we can adjust it. But let's actually move on to the different grant opportunities so that we could talk about what are the things that we think Orono should apply for $50,000.
Okay. How does that sound? Does that sound okay? Okay. What about you, Dan? What are you thinking? Do you want to do more?
Just when I saw on the previous page with the green under the severe winter storms, I was just wondering whether or not there are subsections to that, because I would think that the side effects of a severe winter storm are extended periods without power. So, keeping people warm under those scenarios would be, a subsection, I would say. And possibly even in the summer, as things really start warming up, we might need cooling centers for folks or something like that.
Actually, we could add that as a 5th category, because we have, up until the point when I put in a very large, expensive generator, we had significant power losses for a significant amount of time.
We had to buy a generator too.
And yeah,
well, so we have.
You're all welcome.
I understand that we have good community, and we will invite our neighbors over to cool down or heat up as necessary, but there may be those who get stuck without a generator or without an air conditioning unit. And
there is a lot. Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point. And Megan has fixed the source document, which is not the one that's being shared.
I added it. That's a great point.
Good.
Cool.
See, that's what these guys do. That's what this committee does.
Is there anything else you want to kind of continue to walk through, Dan, or can we jump to the grant options?
I think let's go to the grant options.
I will.
So this is the second document that we have to look through to be eligible for the grants.
Hang on, I thought I downloaded it, but now I can't find it.
If you go into the environmental folder, you can click on the mini resilient grant folder, and it's in there as well.
All right.
And this is basically just a list of pre-approved projects that we can apply for the community.
We're not seeing it yet.
I'm just explaining.
She's setting it up.
Okay. Sorry.
Laying around. I thought I had it and didn't.
So it's another hoop.
Yeah, well, it's actually kind of nice because they've pre-approved a bunch of projects and they said, here, if you pick one of these, chances of getting them are already going to be higher because they're already pre-approved. We already know that they match with Maine Won't Wait. And if they fit your scope, then you can go ahead and pick them. So,
and this is in our shared drive. We created a folder called Community Resilience Grant. If you want to see it specifically on your screen rather than teeny tiny on mine, I will try to.
I can get it.
So things that we have talked about is when we walked through the Maine Won't Wait and talked about Orono kind of priorities, Megan looked at that and then developed a few projects for a University of Maine class. And one of the projects that was actually picked up was installing EV chargers in public parking areas. That doesn't mean that it's funded, it means that we have a student looking at the best location, the feasibility, the best type of charger, you know, kind of the logistics around EV chargers. And so it's a project that we could apply for funding for, or we could say it would be better for us to approach that project with efficiency main money. You know, that's what we're kind of hoping to get from you guys, is as we go through this list, what makes the most sense to apply for.
Yep. So the goal after this would be to have what, 1 or 2 that are narrowed down,
That we can do it for
right?
$50,000.
Yep.
So I just went through a 4-month RFP process with the University of Maine system, looking at electric vehicle charging manufacturers and suppliers, and we narrowed it down to 4. Finally, we came up with 1 that we think is the best. So I'd be happy to share all that information with you.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Or
That's what I was.
At least the public parts of it.
That would be extremely helpful. That's what I was trying to mention to you in the beginning of when I first met you. I got all excited. But
have you heard of an organization called Sourcewell?
No.
And so Sourcewell, they do these like giant deals with large organizations like universities, systems, or states. So I think that the state of Maine currently has a bunch of Sourcewell contracts with electric vehicle charging suppliers, and we actually narrowed our list down from that.
Okay.
So we can talk offline about that.
Yeah, if I send you an email, is that all right tomorrow?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
So
UMaine has an anti-idling policy as well on campus, which I could get you the text of that. I think it's on the sustainability website.
Okay.
So the first strategy, of course, as we just saw, was the transportation. Embrace the future of transportation. Other than the electric vehicles or purchasing or leasing an electric vehicle for municipal or tribal use, most of those are projects that don't need funding. I think that we should kind of go through all of the areas first, and then talk about what we think. Like, hey, let's go back to the chargers and talk about that.
EV chargers will need funding.
Right. Yeah. Or purchasing a vehicle would need funding. Strategy area B is modernize Maine's buildings. Megan, were you able to get an answer as to whether this money can be used for private residents?
I believe that it can, but not the, are you talking about the feedback grant that you were maybe thinking about? So I'm not sure about that. No.
Okay. So one of the projects that we were thinking about was weatherize Orono, which is kind of down at the bottom, but also a lot of those things we talked about were for modernizing the buildings. They specifically speak to doing a project in a municipal building. The town does not have a municipal building project currently identified that would meet this need.
I feel like a municipal building would be more than $50,000.
Well, I think like if we had already done the community facilities assessment and they said the Boy Scout building should be used for X, but it doesn't have a heating system,
Right.
then a heat pump would be suitable for that site.
System. Right.
But we're not there, so we don't have anything identified, so that's part before the course.
Right.
Reduce emissions through clean energy innovation. So this is the conduct a baseline energy usage, conduct a baseline for energy usage. I presume that this would be, I don't know if they're considering doing the blower door test, or if this is strictly a professional assessment of your utility bills.
And is that something that we're going to do as a regional? So if we, I mean, the projects that we do as a municipality, if there's regional projects that will be covered in a regional project, then we should do what won't be covered in a regional project. And baseline, establishing a baseline is going to be part of our regional project.
I don't know that we're going to do individual building by building. I think that would be more like traffic type greenhouse, traffic generated greenhouse gas type things. I think I'd have to go through and reassess.
So Belle, I had a thought about this one. Do we have, through the tax records, do we have a list of individual house, like square footage?
Yes.
And then do we have access to individual electricity bills, or no? That's what we're missing. Okay. That's a shame. Otherwise, we could have done a energy use per square foot calculation. That would have been really useful.
Right. We could do it for
the municipal
buildings, but not as a, you know, for the community with individual homes, etc.
Yeah.
You were breaking up there on my end for a second. I have a question on the, I guess it's C7, the renewable energy project. Is that something that needs to be a large scale sort of project, like, you know, a solar farm, or could that be something that is solar panels, for example, installed on a municipal building? I mean, 50,000 wouldn't cover a large project, but it might do something where you can install solar panels or something similar on a building.
They have not given us scale guidelines. Yeah, as far as I know, I think that even might be covered. Might that be covered under B, or like solar panels on a building, or is that strictly like heat pumps, etc.?
No, I think that would be under B, but then you get, so I think B and E are very similar, and that's what I'm, or H, because that talks about a lot of the bulk purchasing for.
Okay.
A quick question, another quick question, sorry. So this 50,000 number, is this total? So we got to pick some of these and then we'll have 50,000 to spend, or is each one up to 50,000?
The total grant is 50,000.
Each time you apply, and it's for 2 years, twice a year.
That's right.
So we
So it's
know
potentially 200,000.
Right, but we know that in September we expect to apply for the regional climate action plan. So
Yeah.
then we would have another bite at the apple next year.
Mm-hmm.
So all I know is for this year. So I don't know about the if we apply in March, that's 50,000 that we need to spend within 2 years, is what Belle meant by that.
No, I think they're doing it for 2.
They are, so 4 cycles?
That's my,
Okay.
that was my understanding. I could be very wrong,
Okay.
but I think that was my understanding.
Okay. You do also get 2 years from the time that you
Right.
get the money. So
Right.
that's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think some of these could easily be 50,000 on their own.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I expect that we will probably get one project, or unless we're doing like the weatherize Orono, and then we do like a bunch of small different projects that all kind of link to that program.
Right.
Strategy area D is growing jobs and protect natural resource industries. before they assess the suitability of privately owned brownfield and disturbed and contaminated sites for clean energy projects and encourage project development. I can think of one possible lot or parcel.
Would that be the island?
We're just thinking Ayers Island.
No, because that's already had assessments done.
It's already been BRAP'd.
Right. No, I'm thinking of Murray's on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
But
At the top of the hill, the gas station.
at the corner of College and Park.
Right.
But and this is my opinion as staff, not my opinion as a member of this committee, but I'm a little reluctant to spend this money on private entities.
No, I think we have more. I
Pressing
think, yeah, I think we should focus more on for now.
Right. And then kind of the rest of the areas are, I don't really see major capital investment there. Strategy E is protect the environment and promote natural climate solutions.
See, in this strategy, I see land trust, Orono Land Trust, either collaborating or partnering. If this is an area that, you know, that we could do something with. There's a lot of folks on Orono Land Trust that are very knowledgeable about all of this.
Do we have data informing us how much of Orono is already developed?
I don't know that answer, actually. I can ask that question of Kyle.
Mm-hmm. That would help with the E2.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy area F is build healthy and resilient committees.
Communities. We can build committees.
We can, yeah, committees
All kinds
don't
of
take much
committees.
money to run. Communities, healthy and resilient communities. So when we come back in September, this is where we would be targeting our application. It doesn't mean that we couldn't target our application this time around for this strategy area as well, but that's what we were intending. Strategy area G is invest in climate ready infrastructure. $50,000 doesn't get you very far with building infrastructure. It could maybe help you do a study. But we intend to already do the study.
And will there be infrastructure money coming down through the feds anyway? Right. So some of the funding is gonna keep coming. So you don't want to spend money on something you're going to get money for anyway.
Right. So then
wastewater treatment is coming.
Strategy area H, what you see in blue, Megan took a look at kind of the very rough draft of ideas we had brainstormed for weatherize Orono at the last meeting in November, and kind of matched up what the strategies are with different ideas that we had. to kind of put those together. I should also say that Sophie believes that with the ARPA funds that we can create a fund to help low and vulnerable, low-income and vulnerable populations weatherize their home. So there's some money that we can use already, but could we enhance that with this? And is that the highest and best use of this funding?
See G3 here. Protect drinking water and wastewater. Whatever happened to the issues with the town water that I know have occurred in the past, and I'm not sure if they are still occurring?
Trihalomethanes, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and it was something to do with the reversal of flow between Orono and VZ when the university's in session.
So my understanding, and I haven't discussed this for a long time, so I would have to go back and double check. But my understanding is that a lot of the issues were created because there's so many dead ends in the system. So the water would just hang out for too long.
Yeah, stagnate. Yeah.
That it would stagnate, and the chlorine and the other disinfecting chemicals that they add would turn into these trihalomethanes the longer that it sat in the pipe. So they changed their flushing strategy so that it didn't hang out as long, and they brought themselves back into compliance. And my understanding is that they have remained in compliance.
And that was a few years ago.
Yeah, that was a lot of years ago.
That was a lot of years ago. Yeah, I remember that too.
Okay. Then there's the wastewater treatment facility there. So would that have something to do with the CSO events?
Yes. I think $50,000 wouldn't come anywhere close to addressing some of those issues. And I think that there's also some additional funding that might be coming that will.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we needed like a new camera
covers or something too.
Yeah, or
leak-proof.
watertight manhole covers, something like that. But most of that we handle through regular operations through the sewer fees. So as far as I'm aware, there's not an outstanding small scale need for that.
So what do you need, Megan, and maybe Belle, from us right now? Because we're not going to make a decision, and council's going to have to make a decision ultimately about where $50,000 is going to go to this. And here are some choices, I guess, is what.
Right. So we need,
yeah. How do we prioritize such a massive list?
Yeah.
well,
thank you, Dan.
That's what we want you to do. Is prioritize such a massive list. I think.
Give me a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I think talking about what are the priorities that the Environment Committee sees for the next 6 to 12 months. We kind of hit on the weatherize Orono or Orono resilience, or however we frame it, because that was something that the Environment Committee had said was a priority to put together a program for and a budget and present it to council. If there's a way to do that without asking for funding in the first year, maybe that's a good priority. But if the Environment Committee says, you know, that program is important, we think that there's maybe some other grants that we can apply for that. Your highest priority should be the EV chargers. That's the direction that we would go.
But we can still do the projects. We just don't ask for money for them.
Correct.
So, right. So before, so we talked about weatherized Orono before this was possible. And we were thinking about using the ARPA funds to help out with incentivizing heat pumps, as opposed to $50,000. I wouldn't take the $50,000 and use it for that. We could do that without
ARPA
it.
couldn't do your climate change education outreach and engagement program.
Right.
But this can.
Right, but we don't need 50 grand for it.
No, but I guess that's if we do some of the education and outreach and the bulk purchasing program and stuff like that, and then partner it with that other program, does that make more of an impact?
Right.
Then, Dan, how much does a type 2 EV charger cost?
Anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000, and that's before installation. You've got to have the town electricians, you know, provide the power to the location as well. So I was at UMaine, right? We've got power already in a building, and so all we have to do is bury the cables from the building to the parking location, put in these concrete, you know, sonotubes, attach the charging posts to that, hang 2 chargers on each post, putting in 4 that way, and it's going to cost about 32,000
a piece.
So yeah, these chargers about 4,000 a piece, so about 16,000 that is just the hardware, and about the other 16 is getting the infrastructure ready.
How much can Public Works do? Like, what can they do? So that
I don't know what your Public Works capabilities are, but do you have?
We don't have
who does your electric?
But as far as installing the posts and getting the posts in the ground and things like that,
they can easily.
So that's not an added expense.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's not a particularly expensive part. The main part is like trenching, laying cables. Yeah, putting in switch boxes, maybe transformers. You know, safety cutout devices, things like that.
Dan, how much is it for the level 3 of the fast charger? Is that like one charge of 50,000, or is that not even going to cover it?
Yeah, for a level 3, that would use up the whole 50,000, probably more.
Okay, and is that just for one charger at a time, or is that?
Yeah, that's probably one. Occasionally, you can get units that have like dual plugs. But then, yeah, there's a lot of money in getting the infrastructure ready, and then the unit itself is very expensive.
So that would be using up all of that in one.
Yeah, that would be like one grant round gone in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of getting electric chargers into Orono as soon as we can. For in the Pine Street parking lot, or anywhere 2 in the Pine Street parking lot. There's, I mean, some outside of I-95. I think my thinking is that economically, if we also are looking at it from an economic perspective, like I think Dan said once, if we have electric charging stations downtown in Orono, electric chargers, people will come eat. People will go to restaurants. People will do what they need to do and plug their cars in, and then they can come back out. It might be a draw, an economic draw as well. Maximizing what the $50,000 that we have is, I think, is key. If we can touch on different aspects of Orono, and not just weatherize, or electrify, but really look at who is going to benefit the most, or how does the community benefit?
Hey, Bill, you want to know a quick way to do that?
Oh.
If you highlight column C and then go to word wrap, then it will size them all automatically.
I have it, it's already wrapped, but because this is actually an Excel spreadsheet and it's opened, I have it opened in Google Sheets, it doesn't automatically resize the rows.
The cells.
So yeah, I was.
So one question, I actually have two questions. One, can you share this sheet with us so that we could
It's already
spend a bit
shared.
of time looking at it? And then the second question is, if we're going to prioritize these programs, I think we need to know what our goals are. Is our goal to reduce emissions? Is it to improve health? What's the goal this time around? I mean, if the goal is to reduce emissions, then weatherization and electric vehicles, those are like the two primary sources of emissions in the state, pretty much.
Right.
So that would be good. But if we're aiming to try and improve, town facilities and infrastructure from a health perspective, then it would be a different way of looking at it. So I don't know what are we going for?
I think that's the question.
What do you want to go for?
I had a question.
What should our priority be?
I had a question for kind of more of our thoughts of like how to look at this. So this is for $50,000 initially. Are we looking at like, where does this 50,000, like the idea that we're going to be spending $50,000, or is this 50,000 that we're going to be adding to another sort of kind of
matching funds
for that? Or we say, all right, we got 50,000, we want to spend this. Where does it make the most sense, as opposed to we have additional funding that's going for certain things too? I think that would maybe change at least a little bit the thought process of where the money should go.
So here's how I look at it as a community, as a council member, okay, is that this is a community resilience grant. So my take on this is what is going to benefit our community the most? Where do we start with this, with our climate action, and who is going to benefit the most? I'm all about community, and community isn't, for me, is not just infrastructure and municipal buildings, it's our people. And how do we at the same time make Orono, have Orono be a progressive community, and a community that's really looking at different angles for different things. So whether it's the health of Orono or whether it's, weatherizing and getting people's costs down, to live here, or to help improve our downtown, how do we look at Orono as a whole, and maximize. I mean, 50,000 is not that much money. It's not that much money, but if 32,000 for 4 electric chargers, I don't think that's that would be a good thing. If we do a weatherized Orono or an electrify Orono, or it doesn't have to be weatherized, we can say electrify, we can say whatever we want to say. But for me, it's who benefits the most. How many people benefit the most for this price tag that we have right here? And how do we make that what do we prioritize so that more people have see us as see this as a way for them to also participate in this project.
So Shara, I guess if we go that direction, I wouldn't say that having a a place for charging your electric vehicle would be the most benefiting for the community, because so far we don't have everyone, like we have enough, I guess, at the university to cover some of the population that's there in Orono,
Right.
I guess, for now, right? For the, like this immediate use of this money, I would say we have other priorities besides having a electric charger.
Exactly.
Although I
Well,
think it's
see,
important.
But that, for me, that's an economic, that's an economic thing. That is attracting people to Orono to help businesses in Orono.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that would be, yeah, that's another conversation.
So
Yeah,
that
so
would, but it
also you
doesn't have to be the most important. I
Also,
agree
you
with you, Adrian.
Cheryl, also you don't have to put in 4 necessarily. You could just put in 2
Or
for,
put in-
for half the price, and then still have money left over to do other things.
Right.
Right.
I was asking you about the EV.
I would-
Seminars and lectures, or whether it's or buying bulk heat pumps, and then the community can send in a
Yeah,
a request to get one of those too. I don't know how much.
Right,
that would be,
exactly,
but,
right.
Like,
yeah,
like
I would
Daniel-
go. Yeah, my
Go
gut
ahead,
feeling is to go with something more related to the resilient that we were talking about. So something, you know, connecting to weatherize on Orono, or I wouldn't say modernizing buildings, because I agree. I rather not, you know, benefit any private business. But if we're doing something more broad, as we do with the weatherize Orono for the windows, I think that would cover most people.
Right.
Yeah, but also I'm biased. Maybe I'm biased, right? Because I think that's, I tend to go with what covers more people, not necessarily what's more vulnerable people, not necessarily the, you know, the whole of the community. So maybe I'm not being the best person to judge. So.
No, it's okay, Adriana. You can, you are allowed to say what you want to say. I agree with you. I think we should try to do something like that. In weatherized Orono too, we need the window. We need to put the window.
Yeah, Dan, with the
Oh, Ben wanted to say something.
sorry.
Yeah.
Question
Go ahead,
for
Ben.
Dan. I guess maybe you have this. Still, currently, the only like fast charging station in the Bangor area is the it was like at a dealership on Hogan Road. Is that correct?
Yeah, Darling's Nissan.
Okay. Would a again, I'm not saying we need to go with the charging one for this, but would the level 2 chargers, is that something that would draw someone? If you have an electric car and you're going on vacation to, let's say you're going to Baxter State Park, would a level 2 make someone want to pull into Orono and charge, or are they really looking for that fast charging?
They're going to be looking for a level 3.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're on a trip, right, and your car's got a 300-400 mile range, and you're going down the interstate and you pull off, you know, how long do you want to spend? You probably don't want to spend more than half an hour, right? Because you want to get coffee, get something to eat, charge, and then go. The level 2 is going to take 8 hours.
Yeah, but you don't have to fully charge a level 2. It's just like putting a half a gallon
Level
of gas.
2 isn't going to do anything.
Gas in.
I
Right.
mean, level 2 will add about 20 to 30 miles per hour of charge.
So I went to Portland today and I ended up coming back using my gas. But if I had a place to plug in while I was at the restaurant, I would have plugged in and charged my battery a little bit more than what it was.
Yes, yeah, that's true. But it's not going to get you to Baxter from here if you're
No, it's not going to get you to Baxter, but
you're fully electric.
People have hybrids than they do electric cars at the moment. The infrastructure for electric cars isn't.
So I don't think it's going to draw people off the interstate to recharge. However, if someone's visiting Orono with an electric vehicle, they'll probably plug in just for convenience, just because it's there.
Right.
And
but it's not. I don't think it's necessarily going to cause people to go out of their way to come here.
Okay.
That's
so
you need a level 3 for that.
Okay. In the level 3, I mean, you charge for this like you're a gas station charging for
even a level 3 will take 30 to 45 minutes to get you up to 80%.
Okay. I mean, one thing, if we're gonna do this, like if we're talking about the charging stations, if we got a bunch of level 2 or just a few of them, but it's not really what people want, I don't know if that's really effective or not, right? If that's not really filling in this, part of me kind of thinks a level 3, if it's possible, it's kind of filling in that gap that we just don't have in Orono as a whole. But I don't know if like just one of them is really gonna tip the scales or get it so that more people might decide to do that. But it does seem like
I think a level 3 would make a huge impact in this area.
Yeah.
The fact that there's only one within like 50 or 100 miles, and it's at a dealership is, I think, is ridiculous.
I also see when I stop at Medway and see the Tesla supercharging stations, and they're empty.
Well, there are Tesla superchargers in Brewer as well, but you got to be a Tesla.
For Tesla, right?
I don't know that there was talk of Tesla opening up their stations, but I haven't heard much more about that.
Yeah.
So, in the interest of time, where do we need this to be? Like how much time do we have?
So
to
we
put
have
together
until
plan
March, right?
Okay.
We have to go. So we're going to council on Monday to adopt a resolution.
That's right.
And get permission to apply. Now, council has been really good about, and so council technically only has to approve the acceptance of grant funds.
Right.
However, it is staff's policy that we go to council and we ask the question, if we apply for this grant and we are awarded these funds, will you accept them? Because we do not want to, go through all this trouble, apply for a grant, have it be accepted, and then bring it to council, and council be like,
council's not going to do that.
Council has done it once before, which is why this is our policy. But it was for something that actually committed council to spend more money later. So if we said to council, we would like to apply for this $50,000 grant. We have not yet identified the project that we are going to apply for. However, we will, we are committing to council that we are not going to put forward a project that would encumber council, local funds. I suspect council would say,
what are you going to spend the money on?
I don't know, but
that's what I suspect council would say.
Well, I don't know. If you're saying,
that would be Tom, and that would be Megan, and that would be, I think that, okay, so good. So we'll stop right there. But here's what I need from you. What do you want us to do in the meantime to help with this? Because
so what we were hoping to get, right? So what we were hoping to get from tonight was a decision of this is what we think is a priority.
Okay.
We're not going to get that tonight.
No.
So I guess the homework would be to fully review the list of community actions. I don't think that we would get to council before the 31st a proposal, but we can do the resolution without telling council what it is that we're going to apply for, because we will have another council meeting in February.
And I will be there to support that as well.
Right. So before the February what to do? 14th. Oh, it's a Valentine's Day meeting. Before the February 14th meeting, we would need to have a decision on
what the project
what the
was.
project is going to be.
That only gives us a couple weeks.
3 weeks.
Okay. And that will be before we meet again.
That would be before we formally meet again.
Okay.
We could schedule another meeting. We could schedule a work group. That's not a formal meeting.
We could
I
do
think
that.
that makes a lot of sense because this, I would recommend that as a committee, as the Environment Committee, we need to decide on our priority as we look at this list. Like, do we want to focus on greatest greenhouse gas reductions, or do we want to focus on greatest need?
Right.
What does, what addresses the greatest need of Orono residents?
Exactly.
And there's
And
so
I
many
think-
things here. I think we need a working group session to really get into that.
I agree. I agree.
Can we, just to facilitate, is it possible to start a conversation through emails before we meet so we can narrow down a couple of things? I'm thinking if we get to some strategies of these large groups like A, B, C, H, whatever areas, and then when we meet in through Zoom, whatever, we know where to focus a little more, or is that just, it's not gonna help?
If we didn't have Cheryl and Jeff on the committee, we could definitely do that. I will have to ask Sophie if we can do that, or if we would be running afoul of public meetings.
A public meeting.
Yeah.
We can do it with one of us.
No, any doing business of council.
With one of us. If I was on a working group, I could do it without being in a public.
Well, she has told me no. Has she told you
Two
yes?
people, it's only two.
No,
it's
it
two
used
and
to
more.
be.
No, it used to be three.
Three or more. And
Then
then
it
she
was
said
now
any
it's
council.
two.
Is what
I
she
don't think
told
so,
me.
though. I don't think so,
All
but we
right, so
can
we will
check it.
confirm that.
Yeah,
That's
we
what
need
I
to check it.
confirm.
Right.
But I would be thinking that any working group would be the same people that are here, because we would have,
Yeah.
there's so many questions about town infrastructure and
Right.
costs, and what are the town's ability to self-perform the work as well, things like that. And
Are you texting Sophie right now?
Yes.
Okay. We're finding out right now what our capacity is. There's protocol. There's council.
We can schedule a meeting.
I tell you what, my gut feeling is the thing that's going to have the most effect is weatherization, because
Yes, I think so too.
you're going to make people more comfortable. You're going to save energy doing it, and you're going to improve housing stock at the same time.
And that's more urgent. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah.
And that fits the budget too.
Fuels, right, and reduce fossil fuels. So I'm into the weatherization as well. So yeah, so I don't know how often we have to meet, but if I personally would like to just go through this list and just jot some things down like Adriana said, and then come back together again before the 14th, February 14th. And we can do it on Zoom. So what's a good day? And whether I can or can't, it doesn't matter. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, whatever. What do schedules look like? Maybe we could do a quick, next week. What does your schedules look like, Dan?
Wednesday works for me if you guys are up for that.
I am traveling on Wednesday. My daughter's having surgery again.
Okay, Wednesday.
I could do Monday. Are we talking about the same time?
Yeah, same time. Are we anytime? We can change the time.
I mean,
well, if it's this time, Monday works for me also.
The council meeting on Monday.
Yeah, I know. My Mondays are booked.
For next week I couldn't do Tuesday, but I could do Wednesday, or I should be able to do Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
I can do Wednesday,
Thursday
I can
is
do Monday or
candidates
Wednesday.
Next week,
Next week, Thursday is
candidates night.
Oh.
Scheduling.
I mean,
Shall we do a doodle poll?
I know, huh?
Probably makes the most sense at this point.
Yeah.
When we present this to, when you're presenting this to the council, is it enough to say we want to have this money go towards weatherization and maybe a list of indoor sort of things, or do they need that specific, the specific project that we want to do when we apply for it from council?
I don't think they'll need specifics.
Okay.
I don't think, I think that it will be more of at this meeting, what Belle said would be more that the money will be applied for. There will be a grant that we'll apply for. We don't need council, we don't need specifics at the council meeting.
Well, as long as you, I mean, that's what I was saying. I thought that they would say, as long as.
They will probably say, what's the money going to be spent?
Right, and if we say we're looking at different weatherizing projects.
Right. It doesn't have to be more specific.
Right, I think that would be sufficient.
Right.
Could we do that, and then between now and the next scheduled meeting, and I guess at our next scheduled meeting, try to finalize or prioritize, I guess, what we want to have for spending?
Do we agree that that's where we want to put a priority as a committee right now? Can we say we agree on that?
I can't say without looking at this list in more detail, but my gut feeling is yes, but I still want to look at this list.
Okay.
I mean, we just zoomed through it.
Yeah, me too.
There's a lot there.
But could we, like, I'm looking at this and I see, from weatherization seems to be a high priority. We talked about the charging stations. If maybe we list here are the handful of things that we seem to pop up, we've talked about in meetings in the past, and then say these are kind of our potential priorities, and then that way we're not trying to scramble weird schedules in the next 2 weeks, and we can have some more time to look through it.
So and we also have that draft document that Cheryl
that we
all worked together, that Cheryl kind of put together, and that has some strategies that we've already kind of identified that we think Orono should use in order to address these different strategies or these areas. So it might help if, on our own time, we kind of look at that and we look at this and then kind of put together like you said, like a side list of Orono proposals.
Right.
Yeah. How about I send out a doodle? Is everybody's like, definitely can't start a Zoom until 3, 4? What's the earliest time we can look at?
Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm good. Except, well, Mondays I've got council meetings. But Wednesdays,
mornings are fully booked for me every day. So anytime afternoon should work.
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday after 4. Because I teach.
I think a doodle makes a lot of sense, Belle.
Ben, what's your time frame?
Yeah, anything. I mean, I might be able to do stuff at 3 on some weeks. So anytime after 3, I sometimes have free to do things. Depends on.
All right, so I can maybe start at 3 on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then you can say whether it works or not, and then we'll start at 4 on Tuesday, Thursday, and we'll see if we can find a time.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Right.
Whatever you want.
I'm going to stop sharing this.
Okay. All right. I don't know what to do about the next thing on our list. We the waste diversion grant that Megan's been working on has to do with the plastic, and I don't know what this machine is called, that we talked about with Adriana about melting down the plastics and getting them out of our waste stream. And that would be 3 through 7. But since we have talked about it, and in the I've been following the legislature and their work sessions, and PFAS is huge. And so I sent an article to find out, they're talking about PFAS in the land, on the land and in the water, but they haven't said anything about it floating around in the air. So I wrote to Sarah Woodbury, or talked to Sarah Woodbury last night because I knew this was coming up. And because PFAS is such a huge issue right now, melted plastics 1 and 2 are fine to melt down, but we don't take 1 and 2 out of our waste stream. It's recycled, but plastics 3 through 7 have some residual PFAS, regardless of whether we're eating it or whatever. And so melting it down is going to, according to Defend Our Health, is going to create a possible toxic situation. So I don't know how to move forward. The waste diversion grant that Megan has been working on is about buying this machine, getting this machine to Public Works, finding a way for our community to deliver, drop off. I don't think that part has been worked out. Melting the plastic down for either 3D printers or in a mold to make park benches and to use again to come back to the community. But the PFAS situation has overshadowed what I thought was a really good idea. And I had a really long conversation too about, what can we use? Is there something specific that isn't going to create a toxic situation? And, they're saying, I talked to Pat, and, it was just, you can't use plastics that have had any kind of pesticides in them. You can't melt down lawn chairs. You can't do, 3 is kind of okay. So I don't know. I don't know how to proceed with this because of all of this stuff that's happening right now. And I certainly don't want to take a good idea and create a toxic situation.
Yeah, that's my concern too, unfortunately. And actually, I have been researching other options besides the melting. So the idea of shredding the plastic and combining all the plastic and actually pressing the plastic into a mold exists. Right. Some people are doing that research and trying it out. And actually even lower heat. So some plastics are good with lower heat than others. And it's still unclear how much of those fumes are released in lower heat rather than higher heat. Most of these research, at least what I saw, it's burning the plastic. Burning, it definitely releases a lot of bad stuff. But when you melt in a mold, if we have a system of filters, good filters, it can be somehow mitigated, but it's concerning because it's still it's not broadly. We have more questions. It's going to be like a test, not really we don't have all the answers, I guess. I think we should be cautious and maybe not apply for this project yet until we have the answers. Because the deadline is approaching, right? It's like next month or so.
Yeah, it's February.
Yeah. So I actually, I still think we can do something with plastics, divert plastics from waste stream, but we need to figure out a better way. Definitely, I'm not a huge fan of melting plastics right now that I'm aware of all these things too. I'm actually wondering if we could transform this idea into a local, recycling area for the community, still kind of covering the same ideas as I was talking about, like maybe having in town a place where people can, store these recycling things like paper, maybe have a space just for paper where people will learn how to recycle paper there. And that can be a place for schools. We can teach people how to do it, and we can have the town kind of, the space, I don't know if that would be controlled by Public Works or what, but like controlled by the town. So the management would be done by the town, but would be for the community. I think that would be fun to have something like that, but maybe not including plastics right now. And I'm thinking even something more simple as paper and organics, and have like more composting, areas like composting units for the town. We know that a lot of the waste is food, which is absurd, but it's real. So if we have a place for organics and things like that, I don't know if we have time for that right now.
Definitely, it's a conversation, Adriana. We are under contract with the MRC. We are not, as a community members can start a composting program. The municipality cannot. So because of the contract that we are currently under. So we'll see how that goes. That may be changing in the future, in the next 6-8 months. But yeah, I think I think definitely it's a conversation that we can have as a committee. I'm speeding us up a little bit, so because I like to keep our meetings at least to an hour and a half. So I don't know, what are your thoughts about the grant now? I know you worked really hard on.
No, I told her to stop.
Okay.
So I tried to reach out Monson Plastics, which was doing this. They shut down at the end of December.
They did. Okay.
So I tried to reach out to them. I tried to reach out to the people that they gave their machine to. I just wanted to find out what kind of issues they might encounter. It looks like they really only wanted number 1 and number 2 plastic anyway. Which we wouldn't propose to.
We're recycling our 1 and 2 plastic.
So I don't know that we have a project for this grant at this time.
Right.
I think that it seems like it's a grant that's coming around every year now. It came in.
I think it's coming around twice a year now. I think it's coming around again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we should we need to think about how we might be able to have a project ready, because they seem to drop the announcement and then say the grant is due
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. So
right.
We have to have the project ready to write. So
yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, I just learned about the project and I was setting up a strategy to get it done. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So
we still have we still have quite a bit of the town that does not participate in recycling. Would this have been like, is there a way to get the
that's what we tried. Right.
We tried that last year.
Student housing, sort of, for example.
I know I still think that's an issue, but
so they said anything off the record, I think is what they said, essentially. Anything that provides Casella with more money is going to be a no.
That's what Mark King told me.
Right.
Right.
So if we had some sort of a proposal that was not involving spending money with Casella, that could be something that we could do. As we were working on this plastic idea, we've found some hoppers, like 4 cubic yard hoppers that we could potentially use as like deposit sites for recycling around town. And I think that that's something that we don't have time to flesh out before February 11th, but we could certainly start talking about it. You know, maybe working with Rob in the summertime to think about it a little bit more. And the hoppers themselves are like $2,500, and it's $1,000 to ship them here. If we could find a local vendor,
But then we have to have a place for them.
right. But well, I guess what I'm saying is that it's not as crazy expensive as it's kind of a fail fast, fail cheap. If it doesn't work, if people put bad stuff in there and it's just not going to work, then we would be able to use the hoppers for other things.
Okay.
I guess is what I'm.
One thing I would like to throw out here, just as a compliment to what I said, is that one of the advantages of forgetting about plastics now and maybe reshaping it to paper is that if we have a place to store paper pulp can be used for insulation. And that's something that if we can include in some way, connect that to weatherize Orono and have paper pulp as a filler in walls, that's safe, it's cheap and easy to do. We just open a hole on the walls and inject the paper pulp on the walls. We just need a shredder and basically the same type of machine that shreds the plastic. We have that for paper. And I don't know, that's just one possibility. If you guys really want to apply something now, that would be kind of crazy.
No, I think that's just going to be that's just a conversation, but put that down on the weatherized Orono. I don't know what insurance companies think about paper in your walls as insulation. I'm not sure what that looks like, but if you were gonna like a homeowner's. I think there's a little bit more to it than that, but it sounds like a good idea. But certainly keep those ideas, like keep that. Let's write these things down. So.
That's why I'm here. Ideas.
Exactly.
Another thing I saw for recycling a month or two ago, the Nine Dragons facility in Old Town is like actively looking for cardboard. So I mean, if we have a facility in the town over that is like trying to find stuff, and we know that student housing and all sorts of different places don't have access to even cardboard recycling, something like that. I think it seems like there should be some sort of way to facilitate that if we have a company that's trying to make money with recycled cardboard.
And they take pizza boxes.
And they take pizza boxes. So and those are things that I think
they say they do.
With that. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. I don't know how much grant money we need for that, but we could find some kind of a campaign probably to get the cardboard over there.
To be honest, I would think something like talking to Nine Dragons and saying, hey, if you want to set up some facility, set up for them, every
time I think about bringing something to Nine Dragons, I think about the smell, like them burning it and like the smell.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly, that might be an idea if we could connect Nine Dragons and the student housing, because they could get a ton of cardboard out of the student housing.
I know. Yeah.
But I have no contacts in Nine Dragons, but if anybody has one, Megan has one. So
there we go.
She just made a note. So great ideas. Do you want to do an update?
Yeah.
The regional climate action plan has actually gone out to RFP. Phase 1 and phase 2 go out together. We're only going to contract for phase 1, which is the vulnerability assessment for what is called the BACS region, the Bangor Area Comprehensive Transportation System. And that is essentially the urbanized area of Greater Bangor, which Orono is in, Bangor, VZ, sections of Milford, Old Town, Hamden, a bit of Herman, Brewer, etc. So that went out. I think we are doing the RFP That's supposed to be back in mid-February. So we'll be doing kind of that selection process. Dan, do you want to be on that selection committee?
Say no.
Did you say you wouldn't say no, or that you would say no?
Well, that means yes.
Okay.
But when you so earlier you said a moment ago you said you're only contracting for phase 1. So what does that mean for phase 2?
So what we're saying with phase 2 is we're asking the respondents to respond to the phase 2 RFP, but that we're only going to commit the money to the consultant for phase 1 because we only have the money for phase 1. And we're hoping that
we're going to use state money for phase 2.
Well, phase 2, we're going to apply for this community resilience grant for. Bax has some money for it. Sophie is looking into the feasibility of using ARPA funds for it, but all of those funds are not going to be ready in March. And the phase 1 is going to take, I don't know, 6 months to do. So by the time 6 months is up, then we'll be ready with the money to engage for phase 2. And by linking the 2 phases together with the RFP, we're hoping to be able to get the same consultant for both and consider it a single RFP process.
Yeah, sort of like a continuation.
$0 involved.
No, I'd love to be involved in that for sure.
Okay. All right, I'll put you on that email.
I'm glad it's moving forward. That's really great.
Yes,
Josh Rosen has been,
he's amazing.
yeah, finishing law school, running a business, and doing this consulting. So.
And he just won an award, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's my update.
Good.
So just a quick note. Sorry, I don't want to drag this meeting out any further, but I'm a member of the Bangor Area Food Council, and there's someone on that council from the Dover Foxcroft area, and they have a chicken farm, and they are willing to take food scraps, and they will pick up.
Oh.
So if you do have a lot of food going to waste and you're concerned about it, I can put you in touch with this farm, and they will pick up your food scraps.
I did see a post on Facebook. Actually, I don't think it was the chicken. It was from somebody else with animals, but I don't think the town can promote that. But if any of you guys
put it out
individually wish to
put it out on the parent website. I compost. So.
Yeah. Composting is tough, you know, if you don't, especially if you don't have a lot of land, because of critters. If you can place it, you know, a field, a 1 acre field away from your house, then you feel a bit safer from the mice and rats and stuff. But yeah.
Then if you can send a link or information to my email, I'm in the grad students are forming kind of a team effort to help the students housing to get rid of their waste. So yeah, I can connect to that. That would be great.
Yeah, he's supposed to be sending me an email with all of the info. So once I get that, I'll
awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
There you have it. We have on the agenda public comment, but I don't know if we have any public at our meeting.
We do not.
Okay. So we will adjourn, and we'll get a doodle poll, look through the list, see what we can do. Maybe we can just email back and forth for a little bit before we meet about what we want to do and or what we want to propose for the community resilience piece, right? And that's the homework.
Sounds like a plan.
Okie dokie. So we'll meet once, and then we'll meet once again, and then we'll meet, what's our next day? February 26th, 27th? It's on the calendar, but I don't have my
Yeah.
calendar open.
I have too many. open.
I know.
It will be February 23rd.
23rd.
Whoops. All right.
All set?
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Alrighty. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.